The attack began exactly 72 hours after the ultimatum. Jake Morrison watched from his command chair as the alien fleet moved forward. Their massive ships formed perfect attack lines, just as human intelligence had predicted they would. The first wave consisted of 50 Zephyrian dreadnoughts. Each ship was 3 miles long and armed with enough firepower to destroy a city. Behind them came cruisers from the Altarian Republic and destroyers from 6 other alien races. The combined fleet had over 800 ships. Earth's response looked pathetic by comparison. Only 30 human vessels moved out to meet the attackers. The ships were small and looked outdated compared to the alien technology. Most were converted cargo ships with weapons bolted onto their hulls. Zektar spoke from his flagship to the human fleet. "Surrender now, and we will make your deaths quick. Continue to resist, and we will make your species suffer," Jake replied, over the open communication channel. "We've heard your threats before. If you want Earth, come and take it." The alien weapons opened fire. Beams of energy hot enough to melt steel shot across space toward the human ships. The first human vessel, a converted freighter called the Boston, took a direct hit. Its hull cracked open and atmosphere vented into space. The ship went dark and began to drift. Within minutes, 6 more human ships were destroyed or disabled. The alien fleet pushed forward, confident that the battle would be over soon. Their sensors showed human ships exploding one after another. Everything was going according to their plan. Admiral Lisa Kane watched the battle from her underground command center. Her officers looked worried as they saw human ships falling to alien fire. But Lisa remained calm. She looked at her watch and smiled. "Phase 2 begins in 30 seconds, she announced. Lieutenant Colonel Ben Parker was flying his fighter directly toward the alien fleet. His small ship was badly damaged from enemy fire. Warning lights flashed on his control panel. According to his instruments, his engines were failing and his weapons were offline. An alien cruiser locked its targeting system onto Ben's fighter. The enemy ship prepared to deliver the killing blow. Ben counted down the seconds in his head. 3, 2, 1. He pressed a button on his control panel. Instantly, his ship vanished from all sensors. The alien weapons fired at empty space where his fighter had been a moment before. Ben's ship was still there, but completely invisible to alien detection systems. The same thing happened all across the battlefield. Human ships that had appeared destroyed suddenly reappeared, fully functional and armed. The damaged vessels that had been drifting in space came back to life. Energy weapons that had seemed offline began firing at the confused alien fleet. Captain Susan Morris commanded the human dreadnought Sovereign. Her ship had been hiding behind Earth's largest moon, completely undetected by alien sensors. Now she brought her vessel around the moon and into the battle. The Sovereign was not like the other human ships the aliens had seen. This vessel was 2 miles long and built specifically for war. Its hull was covered with weapons that used technology, reverse-engineered from ancient alien artifacts found on Mars decades earlier. Susan opened fire on the nearest Zephyrian dreadnought. Her energy cannons punched through the alien ship's shields like they were made of paper. The alien vessel's hulls split open and began to break apart. In seconds, one of the Coalition's most powerful ships was reduced to burning wreckage. The alien fleet commanders tried to adapt to the changing situation. They ordered their ships to form defensive circles and called for reinforcements from their reserve fleet. But human tactics were already 3 steps ahead of them. Dr. Elena Vasquez activated her gravitational manipulation devices from the research station orbiting Mars. The machines could grab asteroids and move them like weapons. She selected a chunk of rock the size of a city block and sent it flying toward the alien formation. The aliens saw the asteroid coming and moved their ships out of the way. But that was exactly what Elena wanted them to do. As the alien ships scattered, they moved directly into the path of a second asteroid that had been hiding behind the first one. The massive rock slammed into 3 alien cruisers at once. The impact crushed their hulls and sent debris flying in all directions. Other alien ships were damaged by the flying wreckage. The perfect formation that the aliens had worked so hard to maintain was completely broken. Captain Amy Rodriguez brought her ship Aurora into the middle of the alien fleet. Her stealth technology made her invisible, so she could fly anywhere she wanted without being detected. She targeted the alien command ship and fired her weapons at point-blank range. The alien flagship's shields failed under the surprise attack. Amy's weapons tore through the ship's communication systems, leaving the alien fleet without central command. Individual alien captains tried to coordinate their attacks, but they had been trained to follow orders from above. Without clear leadership, their response became confused and ineffective. Jake Morrison led a squadron of human fighters through the gaps in the alien formation. His pilots had trained for this exact scenario. They knew where the alien ship's weak points were located. They knew which weapons to use against which targets. They knew how to fight as a team while the alien pilots fought as individuals. The human fighters moved like a pack of wolves, coordinating their attacks without needing to speak to each other. They would focus their fire on one alien ship until it was destroyed, then immediately move to the next target. The aliens tried to respond, but their fighters were designed for single combat, not group tactics. Commander Tony Russo led a boarding party onto a disabled alien cruiser. His Marines had been trained in alien ship design and knew exactly where to go. They fought their way to the ship's computer core and began downloading the alien battle plans. What Tony found in the computer files was both useful and disturbing. The aliens had detailed information about Earth's public military forces. They knew about the ships that governments openly admitted to having. They knew about the weapons that were displayed at military parades, but they knew nothing about the secret projects. They had no idea about the stealth technology, the gravitational weapons, or the advanced fighters. They had based their entire battle plan on incomplete information. The tide of battle turned completely in humanity's favor. Alien ships that had entered the solar system confident of victory were now retreating toward the outer planets. Their formations were broken, their command structure was in chaos, and their casualties were mounting. But the aliens still had one major advantage. Their ships were faster than human vessels, at least the ships that humans had shown them before. If the alien fleet could escape Earth's solar system, they could regroup and plan a better attack. Admiral Kane had anticipated this possibility. She spoke into her communication device. "Captain Rodriguez, execute Protocol 7. Amy smiled as she received the order. She had been waiting for this moment. Her ship was equipped with humanity's most advanced engine system, based on technology that humans had developed by studying crashed alien ships. Amy engaged her quantum drive and accelerated to speeds that should have been impossible for a human ship. She raced ahead of the retreating alien fleet and positioned herself at the edge of the solar system. Then she activated a device that created a barrier of twisted space. The alien ships ran directly into the barrier at high speed. Their hulls were torn apart by the gravitational forces. Ships that tried to turn around found themselves facing human forces that had followed them across the solar system. The battle that was supposed to be a quick alien victory had turned into a complete disaster for the coalition forces. Of the 800 ships that had entered Earth's solar system, less than 200 were still functional. The rest were destroyed, disabled, or captured. Zektar's flagship was one of the vessels that had been captured intact. The alien commander found himself face-to-face with Admiral Kane in a meeting room aboard the human space station orbiting Earth. "This is impossible," Zektar said. His insect-like features showed complete confusion. "Our intelligence report said that humans had primitive technology. Our spies told us that your species was barely capable of interplanetary travel." Lisa leaned back in her chair. "Your spies saw what we wanted them to see. Your intelligence? Reports contained information that we wanted you to have. For 50 years we've been preparing for this day. But your ships were destroyed," Zektar protested. We saw them explode. You saw what our holographic projectors wanted you to see, Lisa replied. You saw ships that were designed to look weak and vulnerable. While you were destroying our decoys, our real fleet was getting into position. The alien commander's large black eyes stared at her in disbelief. You planned this entire battle from the beginning. We planned this war from the beginning, Lisa corrected him. The battle was just the opening move. She stood up and walked to the window that looked out into space. The remnants of the alien fleet hung motionless in the void, surrounded by human ships. You came here thinking you would fight primitive humans who had just learned to travel between stars. Instead, you fought humans who have been studying your technology and your tactics for half a century. What happens now? Zektar asked. Lisa turned back toward him. Now you learn what human warfare really looks like. This was just the defensive phase. The real war starts tomorrow. The counterattack began 12 hours after the Coalition's defeat at Earth. While alien commanders were still trying to understand what had gone wrong, human forces were already striking at targets across the galaxy. Captain Rick Thompson stood on the bridge of his ship Vengeance as it emerged from a dimensional rift near the Zephyrian homeworld. The technology that made this possible had been reverse-engineered from ancient artifacts found buried on Mars. Human scientists had spent 20 years learning how to tear holes in space itself. Rick looked out at Zephyr Prime, the most heavily defended world in the galaxy. Massive space stations surrounded the planet like a ring of steel. Energy fields that could destroy entire fleets protected the surface. No enemy force had ever successfully attacked this world, but no enemy force had ever used human tactics before. Send the message, Rick ordered his communication officer. The transmission went out on all frequencies to every alien ship and station in the system. Admiral Kane's voice spoke with calm authority. This is Admiral Lisa Kane of the Earth Defense Force. Your attack on our homeworld has failed. Now you will learn the price of threatening humanity. The Zephyrian fleet commanders scrambled to respond. Admiral Kextor, the highest-ranking military officer in the system, spoke back to the human ships. Impossible. Our long-range sensors show no human ships approaching this system. You could not have traveled here so quickly. Rick smiled as he activated his ship's true appearance. The Vengeance had been disguised as a Zephyrian cargo vessel. Now the holographic projectors shut down, revealing a human warship bristling with weapons that the aliens had never seen before. All around the system, similar revelations were taking place. Cargo ships revealed themselves to be human destroyers. Passenger liners became assault carriers. Mining vessels turned into mobile weapons platforms. For months, human ships had been moving freely through Zephyrian space, completely undetected. The space battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Zephyrian ships that tried to form traditional battle lines found themselves under attack from all directions. Human vessels that had seemed to be running away would suddenly reverse course and strike at exposed flanks. Colonel Danny Walsh led the ground assault on Zephyr Prime itself. His Marines had been launched from orbit in drop pods that could punch through the planet's energy shields. The technology used quantum tunneling principles that allowed solid matter to pass through energy barriers. Danny's boots hit the surface of the alien world with a crash that shook the ground. Around him, 500 Marines were landing in the heart of the Zephyrian capital city. The alien defenders had expected any attack to come from space. They were completely unprepared for human soldiers appearing in their streets. The Marines moved with precision that came from years of training. They knew the layout of every important building on the planet. They knew where the command centers were located. They knew which targets would cause the most disruption to the enemy's ability to fight. Human intelligence had been preparing for this assault for decades. Agent Nicole Brooks had provided detailed maps of the city. Other human spies had identified key personnel and important facilities. The Marines knew exactly where to go and what to do. Danny kicked down the door of the Planetary Defense Headquarters. Inside, Zephyrian officers were frantically trying to coordinate their response to the human attack. They looked up in shock as armored human soldiers burst into their command center. "Surrender now and you will not be harmed," Danny announced. "Continue to resist, and we will do whatever is necessary to complete our mission." The alien officers reached for their weapons. Danny's Marines responded with the speed and efficiency that came from fighting in dozens of wars across human history. Within seconds, the command center was under human control. Meanwhile, in another part of the galaxy, Major Kate Sullivan was leading an assault on the Coalition's main shipyards. The industrial complex orbited a red giant star and produced most of the warships used by the Alien Alliance. Kate's approach was different from the direct assault on Zephyr Prime. Her mission required finesse rather than force. The shipyards had to be captured intact so that humanity could study the advanced alien technology. Her ship approached the facility disguised as a routine supply vessel. The alien security forces were busy dealing with reports of human attacks in other systems. They barely glanced at Kate's ship as it docked with the main station. Kate and her team moved through the corridors of the shipyard like they belonged there. They wore holographic disguises that made them look like alien workers. Their equipment was hidden inside containers that appeared to hold standard maintenance supplies. The beauty of Kate's plan was its simplicity. Instead of fighting their way to important targets, her team simply walked to them. Human intelligence had provided detailed information about the facility's layout and security procedures. When Kate reached the main computer core, she plugged in a device that Dr. Paul Jang had designed specifically for this mission. The device could interface with any alien computer system and give humans complete control over it. Within minutes, Kate had access to every system in the shipyard. She could control the manufacturing equipment, the defense weapons, and even the life support systems. The facility that had been producing ships to fight humanity was now under human control. But Kate didn't stop there. She began reprogramming the manufacturing systems to produce human designs instead of alien ones. The shipyard that had been building vessels to destroy Earth would now be building ships to defend it. Her actions were repeated at industrial facilities across the galaxy. Human agents who had been living among alien populations for years were simultaneously striking at critical targets. The Coalition's ability to produce weapons and supplies was being destroyed from within. Dr. Charlie Kim had spent 15 years studying alien psychology. His research had identified the exact pressure points that would cause maximum disruption to enemy morale. The attacks were timed and coordinated to create the greatest possible psychological impact. The Coalition leaders had expected a desperate defense of Earth followed by humanity's inevitable surrender. Instead, they found their own worlds under attack while human forces seemed to be everywhere at once. Commander Tony Russo intercepted alien communications from his position aboard a captured enemy ship. The messages he was hearing revealed the true extent of the Coalition's confusion. Alien commanders were reporting impossible events. Human ships were appearing in systems that should have been unreachable. Critical facilities were being captured, without any sign of how the humans had gotten there. The psychological warfare was working exactly as planned. The aliens had thought they understood human capabilities. Now they realized they didn't understand humans at all. If Earth could strike at targets across the galaxy simultaneously, what other surprises did humanity have prepared? Agent Nicole. Brooks watched from her position on Zephyr Prime as the planet's government began to collapse. The lightning-fast human assault had shattered the aliens' confidence in their own security. If humans could appear in the heart of their most protected world, nowhere was safe. The Coalition's member species began to panic. Some withdrew their fleets to defend their homeworlds. Others demanded explanations from their leaders about how the humans had achieved such impossible victories. The alliance that had seemed so strong just days before was starting to crack under pressure. General Frank Miller coordinated the overall operation from his command center on Earth. His wall of screens showed the progress of human forces across the galaxy. Every mission was proceeding ahead of schedule. Every target was being captured or destroyed exactly as planned. Frank had spent his entire career preparing for this moment. He had studied every major war in human history, looking for patterns and principles that could be applied to galactic conflict. The result was a campaign that combined the best elements of every successful military operation ever conducted. The aliens were learning that humans didn't fight the way other species did. Most galactic civilizations had developed formal rules of warfare over thousands of years. They attacked military targets in predictable patterns. They gave warnings before striking. They followed codes of honor that limited their tactical options. Humans followed no such rules. They attacked wherever they could cause the most damage. They used deception and misdirection as standard tactics. They were willing to do whatever was necessary to achieve victory. The coalition had expected to fight a conventional war against a primitive enemy. Instead, they found themselves facing an opponent that seemed to be fighting by completely different rules. The humans were unpredictable, adaptable, and absolutely ruthless in their pursuit of victory. As reports came in from across the galaxy, it became clear that the coalition's position was rapidly becoming hopeless. Critical facilities were under human control. Key worlds were being occupied by human forces. The industrial capacity needed to fight a prolonged war was being systematically destroyed. Admiral Kextor spoke to his remaining officers from the bridge of his damaged flagship. How is this possible? How could a primitive species launch coordinated attacks across the entire galaxy? His intelligence of the truth about humanity's preparations began to emerge as coalition forces crumbled across the galaxy. In the ruins of the Zephyrian Command Center, General Frank Miller stood before a gathering of captured alien officers. The room was filled with beings from 12 different species, all staring at the human with a mixture of fear and confusion. Frank activated a holographic display that showed a timeline stretching back 50 years. Gentlemen, ladies, and honored beings of all species, you have been asking how we achieved such complete victory so quickly. The answer is simple. We have been preparing for this war since 1975. The aliens stirred uneasily. Admiral Kextor spoke for the group. Impossible. Our first contact with your species was only 15 years ago. You could not have been preparing for a war that had not yet begun. Frank smiled and changed the display. It now showed images of ancient alien artifacts being excavated from sites on Mars, the Moon, and several asteroids. Our first contact with alien technology was in 1972, when our mining operations on Mars discovered a crashed ship that was over 10,000 years old. We reverse-engineered the technology and began searching for signs of active alien civilizations. The revelation sent shockwaves through the captured officers. They had believed that humanity's expansion into space was recent and primitive. The idea that humans had been studying alien technology for decades changed everything they thought they knew. We found you long before you found us, Frank continued. By 1975, we had identified the locations of your homeworlds. By 1980, we had decoded your languages. By 1985, we had placed our first agents among your populations. Agent Nicole Brooks stepped forward from her position near the wall. The aliens who recognized her gasped in surprise. She had been a familiar figure in their government for 15 years, a trusted human trade representative. My real name is Nicole Brooks, she said, addressing the Zephyrian officers directly. I am a colonel in Earth Intelligence Service. For the past 15 years, I have been living among you, learning your customs, studying your military capabilities, and sending detailed reports back to Earth. The Zephyrian intelligence chief, a tall insectoid creature named Veltar, stared at her in disbelief. You attended my daughter's wedding. You helped negotiate the trade agreements between our peoples. You were my friend. Nicole's expression remained neutral. I was doing my job. My mission was to integrate myself into Zephyrian society and gather intelligence about your military capabilities. Personal relationships were part of my cover identity. Frank switched the display again. This time it showed a map of the galaxy with hundreds of red dots marking the locations of human agents. Nicole was not alone. We have had operatives embedded in every major alien civilization for decades. They have been our eyes and ears throughout the galaxy. Commander Tony Russo appeared on the screen via video link from his position aboard a captured Coalition ship. Behind him, human technicians were working to extract data from alien computer systems. Sir, we've confirmed the intelligence reports. Every piece of information our agents provided was accurate. The aliens had no idea we were among them. The scope of humanity's intelligence operation was staggering. Human agents had infiltrated governments, military organizations, research facilities, and industrial corporations across the galaxy. They had positions of trust and authority that allowed them to access the most sensitive information. Dr. Charlie Kim stepped forward to address the assembled aliens. He was a small, quiet man who had spent decades studying alien psychology and behavior. We knew this war was inevitable, he said. Our analysis of your political systems showed that you would eventually unite against any species that expanded as rapidly as humanity. So we prepared, Frank continued. We studied your military tactics by accessing your war colleges through our embedded agents. We learned about your weapons technology by having our people work in your research facilities. We mapped your defensive systems by placing our operatives in your security organizations. The alien officers were beginning to understand the full extent of their situation. Everything they had planned, every strategy they had developed, every secret they had tried to keep had been known to humanity from the beginning. Agent Sarah Mitchell appeared on another screen. She was broadcasting from the Coalition's former intelligence headquarters on the planet Altair. Sir, we've accessed their complete intelligence files on humanity. They knew almost nothing accurate about our real capabilities. The files that Sarah had discovered told a story of complete intelligence failure. The Coalition had based their entire war plan on information about humanity's public military forces. They knew about the ships that were openly displayed at space shows. They knew about the weapons that were demonstrated at diplomatic meetings. But they knew nothing about Earth's secret military programs. They had no idea about the advanced fighters hidden in asteroid bases. They didn't know about the stealth technology that had been developed in underground laboratories. They were completely unaware of the dimensional rift generators that allowed human ships to appear anywhere in the galaxy. Colonel Ben Parker joined the briefing from his position on a captured alien space station. The intelligence failure goes deeper than just military technology. They completely misunderstood human psychology and tactical thinking. Frank nodded and brought up a new display showing human and alien military doctrines side by side. Your species developed their concepts of warfare during periods of relative peace and stability. Your battles follow predictable patterns because your civilizations value honor and tradition above victory. Humans developed our military thinking during 2 world wars that killed over 60 million people, Frank continued. We learned that survival matters more than honor. We learned that victory justifies any tactic. We learned that the enemy's expectations are weaknesses to be exploited, Dr. Kim added his analysis. Your psychology profiles of humans were completely wrong. You assumed that because we appeared friendly and cooperative in our diplomatic contacts, we would fight the same way. You didn't understand that humans can be peaceful traders one day and ruthless warriors the next. The captured aliens were realizing that they had never understood their enemy at all. The humans they had met in diplomatic settings were nothing, like the humans who were now systematically dismantling their military forces across the galaxy. Agent Nicole Brooks provided specific examples. Every time your military planners asked me about human defensive capabilities, I gave them answers that were technically true but completely misleading. When they asked if humans had faster-than-light weapons, I said no because our weapons travel through dimensional rifts, not through normal space. When they asked if we had ships larger than our public dreadnoughts, I said no, because our real warships are built in sections that appear to be separate vessels until they combine during battle, added Captain Rick Thompson via video link. For ES, Coalition's intelligence services had been completely outmaneuvered. Every question they had asked had been answered in ways that concealed humanity's true capabilities. Every assumption they had made about human behavior had been carefully reinforced by human agents who knew exactly what the aliens wanted to hear. General Miller brought up the final display, showing the current tactical situation across the galaxy. Red zones marked areas under human control. Yellow zones showed regions where fighting was still ongoing. Green zones indicated coalition territory that had not yet been attacked. As you can see, our current operation is proceeding exactly according to plan, Frank said. We are not improvising or adapting to unexpected situations. Every move we have made was planned years in advance based on intelligence provided by our embedded agents. Admiral Kextor finally found his voice. What do you want from us? Why are you telling us this? Frank's expression became serious. Because the easy part of this war is over. Phase 1 was the surprise attack that crippled your military forces. Phase 2 was the counterstrike that captured your key facilities. Phase 3 begins now, and it will determine whether your civilizations survive or disappear. You have a choice, Frank continued. You can continue to resist, in which case we will systematically destroy every world that opposes us. Or you can surrender now and accept integration into a new galactic order under human leadership. The alien officers looked at each other with growing desperation. They were beginning to understand that this war had been lost before it even began. Humanity had spent 50 years preparing for a conflict that the Coalition had only started planning a few months ago. Agent Brooks stepped forward again. I want you to understand something important. During my 15 years on Zephyr Prime, I grew to respect your culture and your people. I don't want to see your civilization destroyed, but that choice is no longer mine to make. She gestured toward the holographic display showing human forces across the galaxy. The machine that we built to fight this war is now in motion. We have agents in positions of authority throughout your governments. We have access to your computer networks, your communication systems, and your military command structures. We can shut down your civilizations with a single command. Dr. Kim pulled up psychological profiles of the Coalition leadership. We know exactly how each of your leaders will react to different types of pressure. 3 weeks after the Coalition's failed attack on Earth, the aliens made their final desperate move. Deep in the core worlds of the galaxy, ancient weapons that had slept for millions of years began to wake up. The Coalition had discovered the superweapons left behind by the Builders, a race that had ruled the galaxy before disappearing into history. Admiral Lisa Kane watched the sensor readings from her command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. The Sapor energy signatures were unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. These weapons could destroy entire solar systems with a single blast. How many have they activated? She asked her sensor technician. Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell looked up from her instruments with worry in her eyes. 12 confirmed platforms, Admiral. Each one is the size of a small moon. They're positioned around Earth, New Tokyo, Mars Colony, and our other major settlements. The ancient weapons were charging their primary systems. Energy readings showed that they would be ready to fire in less than 6 hours. When they did, humanity's expansion into space would end permanently. Dr. Paul Zhang studied the technical data from his laboratory 3 miles underground. The weapon platforms used technology that was far beyond anything the current galactic civilizations understood. The Coalition had found them but couldn't really control them. They had simply activated the systems and pointed them at human worlds. The power source appears to be drawing energy directly from subspace, Paul told his research team. The weapons create artificial black holes that can tear apart the fabric of space itself. Dr. Elena Vasquez looked at the quantum resonance patterns. Paul, there's something strange about these readings. The weapon platforms are all connected through some kind of network. They're not operating independently. This discovery changed everything. If the weapons were connected, then there might be a way to access their control systems. But it would require someone to interface directly with technology that was millions of years old and designed by a species that no longer existed. Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell had been working on the problem from the research vessel Discovery, which was hidden in the asteroid belt. Her ship carried humanity's most advanced computer systems and experimental neural interface technology. "Admiral, I think I've found something," Sarah reported. "The weapon platforms are using quantum entanglement to communicate with each other. If we can tap into that network, we might be able to access their control systems." The plan that emerged was dangerous beyond anything humanity had ever attempted. Someone would have to connect their mind directly to the alien network using experimental neural interface technology. The process had never been tested on systems this advanced or this alien. Sergeant Chris Hayes volunteered for what everyone knew was likely a suicide mission. He was a Marine who had served in the Special Forces unit that tested experimental equipment. His brain had been modified with quantum processors that allowed him to interface with advanced computer systems. "I understand the risks," Chris told Admiral Kane during their final briefing. "But if these weapons fire, everything we've fought for dies anyway. At least this way we have a chance." Marine Colonel Diana Foster would lead the team that protected Chris during the interface attempt. Her Marines would have to fight off any coalition forces that tried to stop the mission while Chris was connected to the alien network. The Discovery moved to within 1,000 miles of the nearest weapon platform. The ancient structure was a sphere of dark metal covered in strange symbols that seemed to shift and change when viewed directly. Energy patterns danced across its surface like living lightning. Chris sat in the specially modified chamber that Dr. Jang had built for the neural interface. Cables connected his skull to quantum processors that would translate his thoughts into patterns the alien network could understand. If the process went wrong, the feedback could destroy his mind. "Completely. Beginning interface sequence," Sarah announced from the control station. "Neural pathways are connecting. Quantum resonance is stable." Chris felt his consciousness expand beyond his physical body. He was suddenly aware of vast networks of information flowing through subspace. The weapon platforms were just part of a much larger system that had once controlled the entire galaxy. The builders had not simply disappeared. They had uploaded their consciousness into their technology before their physical forms died out. Chris found himself facing the digital ghosts of a civilization that had ruled space for millions of years. "Who dares to enter our domain?" And the voice spoke directly into Chris's mind with the weight of eons behind it. "Your species is young and weak. You do not belong among the weapons of gods." Chris forced himself to remain calm, even as alien thoughts pressed against his consciousness. "We're not here to steal your technology. We're here to stop a war that threatens innocent civilizations." The builder consciousness examined Chris's memories, seeing through his eyes the events of the past few weeks. They watched the Coalition's attack on Earth and humanity's response. They observed the aliens' decision to activate the ancient weapons. "Interesting," the builder voice mused. "Your species shows potential. You adapt quickly. You fight with intelligence rather than just strength. But you are still children playing with forces beyond your understanding." Chris felt the alien consciousness probing deeper into his mind. The builders were learning about human history, human psychology, and human ambitions. They were trying to decide whether humanity deserved to survive. "Your people destroyed your own world's environment," the builder observed. "You wage wars against your own species. You create weapons designed to exterminate all life. Why should we allow such a destructive race to spread among the stars?" Because we learn from our mistakes, Chris replied. Every war teaches us something new about peace. Every environmental disaster makes us more careful with the next world. We're not perfect, but we're getting better. Meanwhile, Colonel Foster's Marines were fighting a desperate battle to protect the Discovery. Coalition ships had located the human vessel and were attacking with everything they had. They knew that whatever humanity was attempting could change the outcome of the war. Marine Captain Joe Anderson led a boarding party that repelled alien soldiers trying to storm the ship. His men fought with the desperate fury of humans who knew that their entire species was depending on them. "Hold the line!" Joe shouted as alien warriors pressed toward the ship's core. "Whatever Hayes is doing in there, he needs more time." Inside the neural interface chamber, Chris was fighting a battle of a different kind. The builder consciousness was testing his resolve by showing him visions of what would happen if humanity continued to expand across the galaxy. He saw human colonies strip mining entire worlds. He saw human fleets conquering alien civilizations. He saw the galaxy burning in wars that lasted for thousands of years. The builders had seen it all before with other young species. "This is why we built the weapons," the builder explained. "To prevent any single race from becoming too powerful, your species shows the same aggressive tendencies that have destroyed civilizations before." But Chris showed the builder consciousness other visions. He shared memories of humans helping alien refugees. He showed them human scientists working to cure diseases that affected other species. He revealed humanity's capacity for cooperation and compassion. "We're not just conquerors," Chris argued. "We're explorers. We want to learn about the universe and find our place in it. The Coalition attacked us because they feared our expansion, but we never wanted to fight them." The builder consciousness debated among themselves in thought patterns that Chris could barely follow. They had been watching the galaxy for millions of years, seeing species rise and fall in endless cycles. They had to decide whether humanity was different from all the others. Dr. Elena Vasquez monitored Chris's vital signs from the Discovery's medical bay. His brain activity was off the charts as he interfaced with technology that pushed human neural capacity to its absolute limits. "He's been connected for 16 minutes, she reported to Admiral Kane. "That's longer than anyone has ever maintained a quantum neural interface. I don't know how much more his mind can take." The weapon platforms were still charging their primary systems. In less than 2 hours, they would fire automatically unless someone could stop them. Everything depended on Chris's ability to convince the ancient aliens that humanity deserved to survive. "Show us your true nature," the builder consciousness demanded. "If we grant you control of our weapons, what will you do with them?" Chris didn't hesitate. "I'll turn them against the Coalition forces that are trying to destroy innocent worlds. But after the war is over, I'll shut them down permanently. No species should have the power to destroy entire solar systems." This answer surprised the builders. Most species that gained access to superweapons wanted to keep them for future use. The idea of voluntarily giving up such power was almost unknown in galactic history. "You would destroy weapons that could guarantee your species' dominance?" the builder asked. "Power that great corrupts anyone who holds it," Chris replied. "We've learned that lesson from our own history. The weapons should be dismantled so that no one can ever use them again." The builder consciousness reached a decision. For the first, the deep space sensors aboard the Zephyrian command ship Eternal Glory picked up the human vessel at 0600 hours ship time. Commander Velk 7 studied the readings on his main display screen. The alien ship looked small and weak compared to his massive fleet. 3 Zephyrian warships hung in the darkness of space, each one the size of a small moon. Their black hulls absorbed starlight, making them nearly invisible against the void. "Analysis report," Velk 7 commanded. His voice carried the authority of someone who had conquered 12 star systems for the Empire. Science Officer Quill 3 moved his 6 arms across the control panel. Blue lights danced under his touch. The vessel measures approximately 200 meters in length, basic metal construction, primitive energy signatures, no signs of advanced technology. Velk 7 nodded. This matched what they expected from the third planet in this system. The Empire had been watching Earth for several months now. The humans seemed to be on the edge of space travel, but they had not yet developed faster-than-light engines. Perfect timing for first contact and eventual conquest. The human ship drifted through space on a steady course. It showed no signs of detecting the Zephyrian fleet. This was not surprising. Zephyrian cloaking technology was thousands of years ahead of anything these primitive beings could imagine. Ship designation? Velk 7 asked. The markings read USS Dakota. Appears to be a military vessel based on its design patterns. Velk 7 studied the image more closely. The human ship had clean lines and a purposeful look. Its hull was painted dark gray with white numbers on the side. Several weapon ports were visible along its length. For a primitive species, the humans seemed to understand the basics of warship design. How many crew members? Scanning now, Commander. Quill 3 adjusted his instruments. Approximately 200 life forms aboard. All appear to be human. No signs of other species. Inside the Dakota, Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair. He was a tall man with short brown hair and calm blue eyes. 20 years of military service had taught him patience. His crew moved quietly around the bridge, performing their duties with practiced skill. Status report, Morrison said to his second-in-command. All systems normal, Captain, replied Lieutenant Commander Lisa Park. She was a small woman with black hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her fingers danced across her navigation console. We're maintaining course and speed as ordered. Morrison nodded. The Dakota was 3 days into what appeared to be a routine patrol mission. They were checking the outer boundaries of the solar system, looking for asteroids or other hazards to shipping lanes. At least that was what the official mission reports would say. The real purpose of their mission was classified at the highest levels. Earth's governments had been tracking strange signals from deep space for months. Analysis suggested the presence of alien spacecraft in the area. The Dakota had been sent to investigate while maintaining the appearance of a normal patrol. Any contacts on sensors? Morrison asked. Nothing on passive sensors, sir, reported Ensign Steve Walsh from the communications station. No active pings from any unknown sources. Morrison allowed himself a small smile. If there were aliens out there watching them, they were doing a good job of staying hidden. The Dakota's sensors were more advanced than they appeared, but Morrison was under strict orders to use only standard detection methods. Earth Command wanted to see what these aliens would do when they thought they were unobserved. Back on the eternal glory, Commander Velk 7 made his decision. Begin standard first contact protocol. I want a full, deep scan of that vessel. Map every system, every weapon, every piece of technology they have. Understood, Commander. Quill 3 began powering up the quantum resonance scanner. This device could peer through solid matter and analyze the atomic structure of anything within its range. It was one of the Empire's most advanced pieces of technology. The scanner would reveal everything about the human ship. Its power systems, weapons, defensive capabilities, crew quarters, food storage, even the personal belongings of individual crew members. Nothing could hide from a quantum resonance scan. Scan beginning now, Quill 3 announced. A low humming. Sound filled the bridge as massive amounts of energy flowed through the scanning array. The beam itself was invisible, but its effects could be seen on the monitoring screens. Layer by layer, the scanner peeled back the secrets of the human vessel. Velk 7 watched the process with satisfaction. Soon they would know everything about these humans and their technology. The information would help the Empire decide how to approach first contact. If the humans were too primitive, they might be suitable for slavery. If they showed promise, they might be allowed to join the Empire as a client species. Either way, their fate would be decided based on what the scan revealed. On the Dakota, Chief Engineer Ryan Cole was running his routine checks in the engine room. He was a stocky man with graying hair and oil-stained coveralls. 30 years of working on military spacecraft had given him an instinct for trouble. "Something feels different," he said to his assistant, Petty Officer Amy Carter. Carter looked up from her diagnostic panel. She was young, maybe 25, with red hair and sharp green eyes. "All readings are normal, Chief." "What kind of different?" Cole frowned and checked his instruments again. "Can't put my finger on it. Just a feeling." He had learned to trust his instincts over the years. They had saved his life more than once. What Cole couldn't know was that his enhanced nervous system was picking up the quantum resonance beam. The genetic modifications that all Dakota crew members carried made them sensitive to certain types of energy. The feeling he was experiencing was his body's natural response to being scanned by alien technology. "Maybe we should inform the captain," Carter suggested. "Not yet," Cole said. "Let me run a few more tests first." The scan continued. For another 20 minutes, Quill 3 worked methodically, ensuring that every part of the human ship was properly analyzed. The data flowed into the Zephyrian computers, where it would be processed and studied. "Scan complete, Commander," Quill 3 finally announced. "Excellent. How long until we have the full analysis?" "Processing should be complete within the hour. The computers are working through the data now." Velk 7 settled back in his command chair. Soon they would know everything about these humans. The Empire's next conquest was about to begin, but as the computers processed the scanned data, strange readings began to appear. Numbers that made no sense, energy signatures that violated known laws of physics, material compositions that should not be possible. Deep in the quantum processing cores of the Eternal Glory, warning lights began to flash. The computers had found something unexpected, something that would change everything the Zephyrians thought they knew about the human race. The scan was complete. Now came the truly terrifying part, understanding what they had found.